Good evening, everybody. Okay, let me just do that. Okay, there we go. Good evening, everybody. How are you today? Welcome to another reading of 1001 Arabian Nights, which I am Joanna Godwin Seidl. I run the Vienna Theatre Project. My friend and dear colleague and I, Saman Gerard, decided at the beginning of the lockdown that we wanted to read 1001 Arabian Nights for everybody to keep you all entertained during the lockdown. For many people, the lockdown has already lifted, but we're still very pleased to carry on reading for you. And tonight we are going to be reading, or I am going to be reading, I have to turn this the right way around. Tonight I am going to be reading for you the 94th and potentially, let's see how we get on, the 95th night. I hope you are all sitting comfortably. My dog is busy snoring over in the corner over there. And without further ado, I shall begin. Now, when it was the 94th night, Shahrazad said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king, that when the old woman, Zat al-Dawahi, and those with her agreed upon such words, she said, 'Now, as to that which I impart shall reach the ears of the King Shah Khan, say him further.' Hearing these words from that image which we knew that the holy man was indeed of the chiefest devotees and Allah's servants of purest qualities. So we made 3 days' march till we came in the sight of that hermitage, and then we went up to it and passed the day in buying and selling, as is the wont of merchants. As soon as the day had departed, our sight and night was come to darken light. We repaired to the cell wherein was the dungeon, and we heard the holy man, after chanting some verses of the Quran, repeat the following couplets. My heart disheartened is, my breast is trait, and sinks my soul in the sea of bale and bait. Unless escape me near, I soon shall die, and death was better than this doleful strait. O lightning, on thou light my home and folk, and there still brighter charms thy shine abate. Say, what my path to meet them being barred by wars and barricade succour's gate? When once you have brought me into the Muslims' camp, and I mix with them, you shall see, the old woman continued, how I will make shift to beguile them and slay them all, even to the last man. The Nazarenes, hearing what she said, kissed her hands and set her in the chest, after they had beaten her with a grievous beating in obedience to her commands. For they saw it was incumbent on them to do her bidding in this. Then they all made for the Muslim host, as have erst been said. Such was the case with the damned hag, Zat al-Dawahi, and her companions. But as regards the Mohammedan army, they indeed, after Allah had given them victory over their enemies, and they had plundered everything in the ships of money and hoards, all sat down to converse with one another, and Zau al-Makan said to his brother Shah Khan, Verily, Allah hath granted us to prevail because of our just dealing and discipline and concord amongst ourselves. Wherefore continue, O Shah Khan, to obey my commandment in submission to Allah. Be he exalted and extolled. For I mean to slay 10 kings in blood revenge for my sire, to cut the throat of 50,000 Greeks, and to enter Constantinople. Replied Shah Khan, my life be thy ransom against death. Needs must I follow out the holy war, though I war many a year in their country. But I have, O my brother, in Damascus a daughter, named Kuzia Fakan, whom I love heartily. For she is one of the marvels of the time, and she will soon be of age. Said Zau al-Makan, and I also have left my wife with child near her time, nor do I know what Allah will vouchsafe for me with will vouchsafe me by her. But promise me, O my brother, that if Allah bless me with a son, thou wilt grant me thy daughter for a wife to him, and make convenient with me, and pledge me thy faith thereon. With love and goodwill, replied Shakan, and stretching out his hand to his brother, he said, if she bring thee a son, I will give him my daughter Kuzia Fakan to wife. At this, Zau al-Makan rejoiced, and they fell to congratulating each other on the victory over the enemy. And the Wazir Dandan also congratulated the two brothers and said to them, know, O ye kings, that Allah hath given us the victory, but for that we have devoted our lives to him, be he exalted and extolled. And we have left our homes and households. And it is my counsel that we follow up the foe and press upon him and harass him. So haply Allah shall enable us to win our wishes, and we shall destroy our enemies branch and root. If it please you, do ye go down in these ships and sail over the sea, whilst we fare forward by land and bear the brunt of battle and the thrust of fight. The minister Dandan ceased not to urge them to combat, and repeated his words, who said, to slay my foes is chiefest bliss I wist, and on the course's back be borne a list. Comes promising tryst a messenger from friend, full oft when comes the frenzied withouten tryst. And these words of another, war for thy mother, and I live, I'll take. Spear my brother, scimitar for sire. With every shag-haired brave who meets his death, smiling till won from doom his dear desire. And when the Wazir ended his verses, he said, praise be to him who aided us dear victory to uphold, who hath given us spoil of silver and fine gold. Then Zau al-Makan commanded the army to depart, and they fared on forcing their marches for Constantinople, till they came to a wide and spacious champaign, full of all things fair and fain, with wild cattle frisking, and gazelles pacing to and fro across the plain. Now, they had traversed great deserts, and drink had been 6 days cut off from them, when they drew near this meadow, and saw therein water founting and ripe fruits flaunting, and that land, as it were paradise, for it had donned its adornments and decked itself. Gently waved the branches of its trees, drunken with the new wine of the dew, and combined with the nectar of Tasmin, the soft breathings of the morning breeze. Mind and gazer were confounded by its beauty. Even have saith the poet, behold this lovely garden, 'tis as though spring over its frame her greeny cloak had spread. Looking with fleshly eyne, thou shalt but sight a lake whose waters balance in their bed. But look with spirit eyes, and lo shalt see glory in every leaf, O waves, thy head. And as another saith, the streams a cheek my sunlight rosy dyed, whose down is creeping, shade of tamarisk stems. Round legs of tree trunks wavelets roll in rings. Sylvan and blossoms are the diadems. When Zau al-Makan saw this champaign, with its trees bowing, and its flowers blooming, and its birds warbling, he called to his brother Sharkan and said, O my brother, verily, in Damascus is naught the like of this place. We shall not march from it save after 3 days, that we may take rest ourselves, and that the army of al-Islam may regain strength, and their souls be fortified to encounter the blamed infidels. So they halted therein, and while camping, behold, they heard a noise of voices from afar, and Zau al-Makan asked the cause thereof, and was answered that a caravan of merchants from the land of Syria had halted there to rest, and that the Muslim troops had come on them and haply seized something of the goods which they had brought them from the country of the infidels. After a while, up came the merchants, crying out and appealing to the king for aidance. When Zau al-Makan saw this, he bade them be brought before him, and when in presence they said to him, O king, we have been in the country of the infidels, and they plundered us of nothing. Why they do our brothers the Muslims despoil our goods, and we in their own land? Of a truth, when we saw their troops, we went up to them, and they robbed us of what we had with us, and we have now reported to thee all that have befallen us. Thereupon they brought out to him the letter of the king of Constantinople. And Sharkan read it and said, We will presently restore you what has been taken from you, but yet it behoveth you not to carry merchandise to the country of the infidels. Replied they, O our Lord, in very sooth Allah dispatched us thither, that we might win that Ghazi never won the like of, not even thou in all thy razzias. Asked Sharkan, What was it ye won? O king, answered they, we will not let thee save in private. We will not tell thee save in private. For if this matter be noised among the folk, haply it may come to their ears of some, and this will be the cause of our ruin, and of the ruin of all Muslims who resort to the land of the Greeks. Now they had hidden in the chest, wherein was the damned Zat al-Dawahi. So Zau al-Makan and his brother brought them to a private place, where they laid bare to both of them the story of the devotee, and wept till they made the 2 kings weep. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And we're going to continue with the 95th night. Shahrazad said, It has reached me, O auspicious king, that the Nazarenes who wore merchants' weed, when brought to a private place by Zau al-Makan and his brother Sharkan, laid bare to both of them the story of the devotee, and wept till they made the 2 kings weep, and repeated to them all that had been taught by the old witch, Zat al-Dawahi. Thereupon Sharkan's heart yearned to the devotee, and he was moved to ruth for him, and was fired with zeal for the service of Almighty Allah. So quoth he to them, Did ye rescue this holy man, or is he still in the hermitage? Quoth they, We delivered him and slew the hermit, fearing for our lives, after which we made haste to fly for dread of death. But a trusty man told us that in this hermitage are quintals of gold and silver and stones of price. Then they fetched the chest and brought out the accursed old woman, as she was a Cassiopod, for excess of blackness and leanness, and she was laden with the same fetters and shackles. When Zau al-Makan and the bystanders saw her, they took her for a man of the best of Allah's devotees and surpassing in pious qualities, more especially because of the shining of her forehead for the ointment wherewith she had anointed her face. So Zau al-Makan and Sharkan wept sore. Then they rose up in honour and kissed her hands and feet, sobbing aloud. But she sighed to them and said, Cease this weeping and hear my words. Hereat they dried their tears in obedience to her bidding, and she said, Know ye both that I was content to accept what my Lord did unto me, for I kenned that the affliction which befell me was a trial from him, be he exalted and extolled. And whoso hath not patience under calamity and tribulation, for him there is no coming to the delights of paradise. I had indeed supplicated him that I might return to my native land, not as a compensation for the sufferings decreed to me, but that I might die under the horse hoofs of warriors fighting for the faith, who, being slain in fray, live again without suffering death. Then she repeated the following couplets. Our fort is tall, and flames the fire of fight. Moses art thou, and this is time for aid. Cast down thy rod till 'twill swallow all thy wrought, nor dread for men their ropes be vipers made. For chapters reel on fight day lines of foes, and on those necks grave verses we thy blade. When the old woman had ended her verse, her eyes overflowed with tears, and her forehead under the unguent shone like gleaming light, and Sharkan rose and kissed her hand and caused food to be brought before her. But she refused it, saying, I have not broken my fast by day for 15 years, and how should I break it at such a time when my Lord hath been bountiful to me in delivering me from the captivity of the infidels, and removing from me that which was more grievous to me than torment of fire? I will wait till sundown. So, when it was nightfall, Sharkan and Zau al-Makan came and served her food and said, Eat, O ascetic. But she said, This is no time for eating. It is the time for worshipping the requiting king. Then she stood up in the prayer niche and remained praying till the night was spent. And she ceased not to do after this fashion for 3 days and nights, sitting not but at the time of the salam or salutation, ending the several prayers. When Zau al-Makan saw her on this wise, firm belief in her gat hold of his heart, and he said to Sharkan, Cause a tent of perfumed leather to be pitched for this religious, and appoint a body servant to wait upon him. On the 4th day, she called for food, so they brought her all kinds of meats that would seduce the sense or delight the sight. but all this she would only eat a scone with salt. Then she again turned to her fast, and as the night came, she rose anew to pray, when Sharrkan said to Zau al-Makan, "Verily, this man carrieth renunciation of the world to the extreme of renouncing, and were it not for this holy war, I would join myself to him and worship Allah in his service till I came before his presence. And now I desired to enter his tent and talk with him for an hour." Quoth Zau al-Makan, "And I also. Tomorrow we sally forth to fight against Constantinople, and we shall find no time till the present." Said the Wazir Dandan, "I no less desire to see this ascetic. Haply he will pray for me, that I find death in this holy war, and come to the presence of my Lord. For I am aweary of the world." So, as soon as night had darkened, they repaired to the tent of that witch, Zat al-Dawahi, and, seeing her standing to pray, they drew near her and fell a-weeping for pity of her. But she paid no heed to them till midnight was past, when she ended her orisons by pronouncing the salutation. Then she turned to them, and after wishing them long life, asked them, "Wherefore come ye?" Whereto they answered, "O thou holy man, didst thou not hear us weep around thee?" She rejoined, "To him who standeth in the presence of Allah remaineth no existence in time, either for hearing any or for seeing aught about him." Quoth they, "We would have thee recount to us the cause of thy captivity, and pray for us this night, for that will profit us more than the possession of Constantinople." Now, when she heard their words, she said, "By Allah, were you not the emirs of the Muslims, I would not relate to you aught of this at any time, for I complain not but to Allah alone. However, to you I will relate the circumstance of my captivity. Know then that I was in the saintly city of Jerusalem with certain ascetics and inspired men, and did not magnify myself among them, for that Allah, be he exalted and extolled, had endowed me with humility and abnegation, till I chanced to go down to the sea at night one night, and walked upon the water. Then entered into me pride, whence I know not, and I said to myself, who like me can walk the water? And my heart from that time hardened, and Allah afflicted me with a love of travel. So I journeyed to Roomland, and visited every part for a whole year, let no place but therein I worshipped Allah. When I came to this spot, I climbed the mountain, and I saw there a hermitage inhabited by a monk called Matruhina, who, when he sighted me, came out and kissed my hands and feet, and said, "Verily, I have seen thee since thou enterest the land of the Greeks. Thou hast filled me with a longing for the land of al-Islam." Then he took my hand and carried me into the hermitage, and brought me to a dark room, and when I entered it unawares, he locked the door on me and left me there 40 days without meat or drink, for it was his intent to kill me by delay. It chanced one day that a knight called Dacanius came to the hermitage, accompanied by 10 squires and his daughter Tamarsil, a girl whose beauty was incomparable. When they entered that hermitage, the monk Matruhina told them of me, and the knight said, "Bring him out, for surely there is not on him a bird's meal of meat." So they opened the door of the dark room and found me standing in the niche, praying and reciting the Quran and glorifying Allah and humbling myself before the Almighty. When they saw me in this state, Matruhina exclaimed, "This man is indeed a sorcerer of the sorcerers." And hearing his words, they all came in on me, Dacanius and his company withal, and they beat me with a grievous beating, till I desired death and reproached myself, saying, "This is his reward, who exalteth himself, and who prided himself on that which Allah hath vouchsafed to him beyond his own competence. And thou, O my soul, verily self-esteem and arrogance have crept into thee. Dost thou not know that pride angereth the Lord and hardeneth the heart and bringeth men to the fire?" Then they laid me in fetters and returned me to my place, which was the dungeon underground. Every 3 days they threw me down a scone of barley bread and a draught of water, and every month or 2 the knights came to the hermitage. Now, his daughter Tamasil had grown up, for she was 9 years old when I first saw her, and 15 years passed over in captivity, so that she had reached her 24th year. There is not one in our land, nor in the land of the Greeks, a fairer than she, and her father feared lest the king take her from him. For she had vowed herself to the Messiah, and robed with Dacanius in the habit of a cavalier, so that albeit none might compare with her in loveliness, no one who saw her knew her for a woman. And her father had laid up his monies in this hermitage, every one who had aught of price or treasured hoard being wont to deposit it therein. I saw there all manner of gold and silver and jewels and precious vessels and rarities. None may keep count of them save Almighty Allah. Now, ye are worthier of these riches than those infidels. So lay hands on that which is in the hermitage and divide it among the Muslims, and especially on fighters in the holy war." When these merchants came to Constantinople and sold their merchandise, that image which is on the wall spoke to them by grace of a marvel which Allah granted to me. So they made for that hermitage and slew Matruhina, and after torturing him with the most grievous torments and dragging him by the beard till he showed them the place where I was, when they took me and found no path but flight for dread of death. Now, tomorrow night, Tamasil will visit that hermitage, as is her habit, and her father and his squires will come after her, as he feareth for her. So, if ye would witness these things, take me with you, and I will deliver you to those monies and the riches of the knight Dacanius, which be in that mountain. For I saw them bring out vessels of gold and silver to drink therefrom, and I heard a damsel of their company sing to them in Arabic, and well away that so sweet a voice should not be busied in chanting the Quran. If then ye will enter into that hermitage and hide there against the coming of Diaconus and his daughter, and take her, for she is fit only for the king of the age, Shah Khan, or King Zal al-Makan, thereat they all rejoiced, with the exception of the wazir, Dan, who put scant faith in her story, for her words took no hold on his reason, and signs of doubt in her face and disbelief showed in his face. Yet he was confounded at her discourse, but he feared to speak with her for awe of the king. Then quoth the ancient dame Zat al-Dawahi, verily, I'll fear lest the night come in, and seeing these troops encamped in the meadow, be afraid to enter the hermitage. So Zau al-Makan ordered the army to march upon Constantinople and said, I have resolved to take with me 100 horse and many mules and make for that mountain, where we will load the beasts with the monies which be in the hermitage. Then he sent at once for the chief chamberlain, whom they brought into the presence, and he summoned likewise the leaders of the Turks and Daylamites, and said, As soon as it is dawn, do ye set forth for Constantinople, and thou, O Chamberlain, shalt take my place in council and conference, while thou, O Rustam, shalt be my brother's deputy in battle. But let none know that we are not with you, and after 3 days we will rejoin you. Then he chose out 100 of the doughtiest riders, and he and Shah Khan and the minister Dandan set out for the hermitage, and the 100 horsemen led the mules with chests for transporting the treasure. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Hello, Mexico. Hi. It's so lovely to have people from all over the world listening in and reading with us, listening into our stories from 1001 Arabian Nights as we read them. We are on, what did I say? We're on the 95th night. We're thinking of actually, I'm going to talk to Saman about this tomorrow. I didn't talk to her about my idea yet, of maybe doing a public reading somewhere in a bar or a restaurant or some location for the 101st night, because then we will only have 900 more nights to go. It was an absolute pleasure reading for you all this evening. Hi, Jochen. I haven't seen you in such a long time, and I'm not going to see you tomorrow, I'm sure. But we will see each other tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure reading for you. If you're with us for the first time, reread Tuesday to Friday at 21:45 every day. You can hit up the video on the Vienna Theatre Project Facebook page. We are slowly but surely going to start moving the videos also onto YouTube, so they'll be able to be read by everybody there, because if you don't have a Facebook account, obviously it's a bit difficult. You can't read our readings, listen to our readings. But Saman Girard will be on tomorrow night, and she'll be reading for you at 21:45. Thank you so much for the loves and the likes. It was an absolute pleasure reading for you. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are taking care of yourselves and looking after yourselves. We here in Vienna have discovered today, because there's been a slight increase in the COVID places. Hi, Martin. Hi, Robert. Hi. Thank you so much for the heart. Because there's been a slight increase in COVID cases in Austria, they have now reinstigated wearing masks in supermarkets and banks and post offices as of Friday. Initially, we only had to wear them now in like doctor's surgeries, at the chemists, or when you went to the hospital and in public transport, but they're broadening it out again to include supermarkets again and banks and post offices. So wherever you are in the world, please make sure you look after yourself. And from me here in Vienna, Austria, I will see you again on Thursday evening, I believe. I wish you many blessings, many salams. Take care of yourself, and good night. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you very much for listening in. Take care. Bye-bye.